Welcome to Exodus Youth Worx on CYC. Today we're going to be looking at some of the issues that Exodus Youth Worx deals with through the lives of the young people that we see. I have with me Senior Case Manager Janet Habashi. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
I thought you'd be the best because you've been with Exodus for how many years now?
Going on 5.
So 5 years of looking at the issues of young people.
Yes.
So this program we're going to concentrate on family issues, law issues, young people getting into criminal activity. We can look at unemployment, how that impacts a young person's life. And last program we talked about young people that struggle with ADHD and attention deficit disorder, self-medicating, finding themselves on with an addiction. How does that impact? Let's start with, okay, the young person has the addiction. Now what's happening with unemployment? We'll take it really slowly. Unemployment we will visit first.
Okay, so with any type of addiction, from cannabis to alcohol to gambling, it's going to affect your employability.
Yep. So what we see is that the addiction goes from, let's take cannabis, smoking occasionally on the weekends, to developing into a weekly habit. Yes. Then it may go to a nightly habit, and then before long it's a morning night habit.
And we've seen that.
It's common.
Yeah.
Then they're late to work, they can't perform their duties at work.
Yep.
They find themselves either being dismissed from work or studies, which we've seen. People dropping out of not only just high school, we see them dropping out of the TAFE and the university. We've had many cases where young people have been extremely intelligent, doing great degrees, and then we get a call from a family that that young person has had a psychotic episode because of drug use, and we go to the mental health unit, and what do we see?
We see someone who started out, partying, it was fun, with their mates, it's not such a big deal. But what a lot of people don't realise is that cannabis is actually a depressant. So is, MDMA, if someone's popping the occasional pill at a party every weekend, it messes up your serotonin levels. Eventually it leads to depression, it leads to all kind of mood disorders. It leads to things that, can be avoided, especially between the age of about 12 to 18, especially in boys. Yep. They're not even letting their brain develop normally.
We had our in-house psychologist, Iman El-Zahabi, speaking last night at a seminar at Exodus in Rockdale, Sydney. She touched on the impact it has in the frontal lobe of the brain.
Yes. Because that's actually the last part of the brain that develops, and that's got to do with impulse control.
Yeah.
So you find people they participate in activities that you would think, are you crazy? But there's just no impulse control. They take more risks. They
judgments.
Yes. Yes.
And she spoke about memory loss, which we see quite a bit in long-term cannabis users. Their memory starts to lapse and possibly, we know, impacts on their ability to learn.
Yeah.
And so our university students are suffering.
Yep.
And then, unfortunately, we have cases where the father of the family has a long-term addiction, and it's now impacting on the young people in that family.
Yeah.
So although we're Exodus Youth Worx, and we emphasise the word youth, it has now, the scope of Exodus has included family issues, which unfortunately, and again it's a taboo topic, domestic violence in our community.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And that comes about, it's a cultural problem. It can be a substance abuse problem. So alcohol can produce really aggressive behaviour. Cannabis, hashish is still there.
And when you're not smoking, that's when the aggravation comes out. That's when, you know, and we've seen young people at Exodus at about 3 o'clock.
3 p.m. in the afternoon.
That's usually when it hits.
Yes.
And yeah.
How does a family cope? What are their where can they go?
The first thing any family has to do is deal with it as a family. There's no secrets when it comes to someone that has a drug addiction.
Transparency. First point of call.
You try and keep secrets, and you can't deal with something that you can't see or acknowledge.
Yeah. It's a difficult situation, isn't it? Where do you begin to unpack that sort of issue? How can Exodus Youth Worx, let's put it a different way, what can be the role of our community? What can be the role of Exodus Youth Worx for a family desperate to address this issue?
First of all, there's no shame. There's no shame whatsoever. You know, you can have two people grow up in the same house with the same parents, with, you know, everything is exactly the same. One uses drugs, one doesn't.
Yep.
So it's not like it's anybody's fault. But usually the drug use or the drug abuse is a symptom
of something else.
That's right.
Okay. What we might do is, it's been difficult to try and get you this video, but I think we need to have transparency if we are to address such issues. Here's an opportunity to hear what it's like for a young person to have an addiction or to be growing up in a family that has this as an issue. I hope you find it insightful.
Hey again, my name's Youth Worx and I'm part of the Youth Worx program at Exodus. I was training actually at the health centre above Exodus, and I was a meth addict for 20 years, and 6 months ago now, 6 months clean, I'm very proud of the fact. I actually was, like I said, I was training at the gym, then I walked downstairs and I seen the youth centre, and I thought, well, I'll ask inside just to see if they might have some troubled youth that want to get off this nasty drug. So I walked inside, met Peter, he introduced me to Pablo, and I told my story to Pablo, and he said, that's great, you know what I mean? And I ended up in a bit of a strife. A couple of people didn't pay me in the Gold Coast, and ended up sleeping in my car for about, it was over a month, well over a month, nearly 2 months. And but every day I'd come down to Exodus, and the beautiful people here would they'd feed me and you know, look after me, and I got a job in the meantime. Then I got fired for being homeless, which was it was a bit of a hard time for me, but I figured it was all right. I come back to Exodus, and then they offered me work, and they knew I was sleeping in my car, and out of the kindness of their heart, they got a place in Ramsgate, and I'm living with a couple of the boys down there now, and yeah, like it's been a very bit of a struggle, you know what I mean? I was very honest about my drug use, and I lost my job because of it. And the thing about Exodus that's actually quite moving for me is that they didn't care about my past, you know what I mean? Like, I told them, everybody smiled, and they're going, that's great, Aaron. They actually everybody shakes my hand, they go, mate, it's good that you gave up. And like, that to me means the world to me, just because, like, it's hard enough giving up something that, like, I was on that for a long time, and like, this place here, like, there's no judging here, you know what I mean? I'm from New Zealand, so I'm very multicultural. These guys are too. They're fantastic. Doesn't matter where you're from, they'll help you out. So if you need anything, you know, the youth, and like I'm 36 years old, so it's more than just a youth centre. You know what I mean? They're helping out. They help out everyone. So like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I thank Exodus, and yeah, it's Aaron Weeks, and yeah.
That's what we deal with.
Yeah.
We've heard from the young people. People don't wake up and say, I'm going to be a drug user. It's come from a place of trauma.
Yeah.
What are some of those traumas that can contribute to a life of drug addiction?
Anything that causes a young person to have low self-esteem, physical abuse, emotional abuse. You know, I've seen parents that don't even realise they're doing it to their children, that they're putting them down, or even by constantly just sort of putting pressure on them and wanting more. Unfortunately, you know, people that have been sexually abused are going to look for some kind of comfort, escape from that trauma.
And I think you'd agree with me, the blessing of coming to a new country outside of your home country, it's a blessing, a new start. However, we are seeing a cultural collision between a family that comes from Egypt. The parents are obviously, they've been brought up in Egypt. They're now in Australia. The young kids are growing up as Australian Egyptians, and the cultural, that the joining of the two is causing friction.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you begin? Is it education?
It has to start with education. It has to. Ignorance is bliss, but only for so long.
Yeah, we can't deny that they're, and it's not a problem, but it is a situation that we need to address. That we aren't living in Egypt. At the same time, we are foreigners in a foreign land. We don't want to adapt to everything in the new country. However, our kids are Australian Egyptians.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you just, I'm a big advocate for just talking to your kids. You have to know what's going on with your kids. They have to be able to come and feel comfortable to talk to you. Don't freak out.
Yeah, don't freak out. I remember last year we were invited, Exodus Youth Worx was invited to a family conference with His Grace Bishop Amber Paula, and we had the workshops. And so I thought it would be an interesting activity to write down all the street names of the drugs and, you know, the paraphernalia that go with it. And I gave it to the parents and I said, okay, what do you recognise from this list? And it was shocking. They actually did not recognise the slang for the drugs and the drug use. You know, how do you order? What are you buying? That was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
So talking to your kids and understanding what they're saying. I mean, we all speak English, however, comprehension is possibly something we could look at.
Yeah.
Education.
Yes.
What
definitely.
drugs are out there?
Yep.
Learn. There's enough online. Attend seminars.
And there's no such thing as, oh, but my child won't do that.
No, that's a big one. My kids won't.
Yes,
Yeah.
my kids are different.
Yes. And we can't presume that, you know, attending a youth meeting, and we don't want to be the prophets of doom either.
No.
But, you know, church attendance is not everything that can stop this young person getting involved in drugs.
That's just one part of a whole other life. Do you know, spirituality is very important.
Very.
It is.
Yep.
But it's community as well.
Yes. And a safe place to discuss issues that are happening perhaps in school,
Yep.
amongst friends. It's no longer an excuse to say, well, my kids will only have Egyptian friends.
Mm.
No.
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 And that doesn't limit what they're going to be exposed to. You can hide or shelter your kids from a lot of things, but they are going to go out into the world, and you have to send them out there with armour, and armour is knowledge. Don't allow them to be so shocked by something that they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, we were watching a video the other day about young people that had serious drug addiction issues, and they said, "Oh, I didn't know that cannabis was such a serious drug. I thought it was just I could stop it." Yeah, a plant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a herb.
No, it's a drug.
Yes.
A very addictive drug, and that's the misconception as well. They think because it's not addictive. I've seen people go ballistic when they haven't been able to get their smoke that day.
We have seen that.
We have.
And there's the argument that cannabis is a gateway drug to other drug use, and you and I have both been in discussions where the young person will say, "Oh no, I'm never going to use anything but," and it's definitely not a gateway drug. It is proven that it can lead to other drug abuse, and we've got an epidemic with crystal meth, ice at the moment.
But a young person was just saying to us yesterday, just yesterday, that he can't get high anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much he smokes.
Yep.
He doesn't get high anymore. So what are you going to do to get high?
Use something
He's
else.
going to look for something else.
Yes. So for the listeners that may not understand what we're talking about, let's clarify. So a young person's using cannabis, marijuana, regularly, but he's not getting any...
Well, at this stage, I think it's just maintaining. It's maintenance. So he's probably experiencing the physical effects, but he's not. It's not a mental thing anymore. It's purely physical. His body is craving it, so he's satisfying the craving.
And that's it. He's not getting a high now, so he may look for something else.
Yeah.
So if there's a parent listening that is suspicious of their young person using cannabis, let's just start with this. What should they do?
Approach their kid and ask them straight out.
Yep. But not aggressively.
Yeah. No.
Let's talk about this. Yeah.
And just come at it with the attitude that if you make sudden movements, don't make any sudden movements. Just don't
panic.
Yeah.
Panic. We can work with this.
And then discuss with your kid. Well, how did you think it would affect you? Why did you first start? Why did you want to do that? How does it make you feel?
Yeah.
And then we can educate them on how it's going to end up.
Yes. Thank you for joining us. Really tricky, hard topic to discuss, and obviously not enough time. Thank you for watching Exodus Youth Worx on CYC. If you would like more information, we have a website, Exodus Youth Worx, that's worx.org.au. You can call us, you can come and see us, we have seminars, we have information that you may need. Please give us a call, we'd be honoured and blessed to serve you. Thank you for watching Exodus Youth Worx.